Welcome back. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more recaps. Disney's live-action Snow White, 2025, is a bold reimagining of the classic fairy tale. Directed by Mark Webb and featuring Rachel Zegler as Snow White, Gal Gadot as the Evil Queen, and Andrew Burnip as Jonathan, the movie sets out to modernize the iconic story with more depth and complexity, while maintaining the spirit of the original. Let's break down the entire plot in detail and explore how this version transforms the beloved tale. The movie opens with an expansive, sweeping shot of the kingdom, once flourishing and filled with life. It is now shrouded in darkness and gloom under the rule of the evil queen. The iconic castle looms ominously over the landscape, its grandeur now tainted by the queen's oppressive presence. We learn that Snow White's parents ruled the kingdom with kindness and justice. Her father, a brave and noble king, fell in love with Snow White's mother, whose warmth and compassion made her beloved by all. However, after the queen's tragic death, the king, in his grief and longing, was seduced by the cunning and beautiful evil queen. Shortly after their marriage, the king mysteriously dies, and rumors of poison circulate among the people. The evil queen seizes control and begins to manipulate the court, bending everyone to her will. As Snow White grows up, the queen becomes increasingly paranoid about her beauty. Her magical mirror, an eerie, floating specter shrouded in mist, reassures her daily that she is the fairest in the land. Yet, her fear of being surpassed by anyone becomes an obsession. In contrast, Snow White remains resilient and hopeful, despite being treated as little more than a servant in her own palace. We see her scrubbing floors, tending to the queen's vanity chamber, and looking longingly out of the castle windows, singing the film's original ballad, Waiting on a Wish. The song reflects Snow White's longing to break free from her life of servitude, expressing a desire to explore the world beyond the castle walls. She remembers happier days with her parents and clings to those memories as a source of strength. Zegler's performance captures Snow White's vulnerability and determination beautifully, showing her transition from a sheltered princess to a young woman yearning for independence. One day, the mirror delivers a shocking revelation to the queen. Snow White has become the fairest of them all. Enraged, the queen's transformation from icy elegance to pure wrath is chilling. She calls upon the huntsman, a rugged, conflicted character who once served Snow White's father. She manipulates him with threats and promises, commanding him to take Snow White into the forest and kill her. To prove his loyalty, he must return with her heart in a carved box. The huntsman, burdened by guilt and sorrow, follows his orders and leads Snow White deep into the forest. As they walk, Snow White speaks softly to him, unaware of his intentions. She talks about her dreams of a better life and her hope that the queen might one day show kindness. The huntsman, moved by her innocence and compassion, finds himself unable to carry out the deed. He drops his knife and urges Snow White to flee, warning her that the queen will not stop hunting her. Terrified and disoriented, Snow White runs deeper into the forest. The sequence is beautifully haunting, with twisted trees and shadows seemingly coming to life. As the night falls, Snow White collapses near a river, exhausted and terrified. In the morning, she is discovered by a small group of woodland creatures who nudge her awake and lead her to safety. Following the animals, she stumbles upon a quaint, worn-down cottage hidden within a meadow. Peeking inside, she sees the disorganized chaos and immediately feels at home. So at home that she falls asleep after cleaning on their beds. The Seven Dwarfs return from the mines. They find Snow White in their beds, and they are startled. The introduction of the dwarfs is comical yet heartwarming, as they cautiously confront this stranger in their home. Each dwarf has a distinctive personality. Doc, the wise and somewhat bumbling leader; Grumpy, whose rough exterior hides a soft heart; Happy, the optimistic soul of the group; Sleepy, who can hardly keep his eyes open; Bashful, whose shyness around Snow White is endearing; Sneezy, constantly battling allergies, and Dopey, whose childlike innocence brings humor and charm. Initially, the dwarfs are skeptical of Snow White's presence, but she explains her plight, and they are moved by her story. They decide to let her stay in exchange for her help around the cottage. She forms a particularly close bond with Grumpy, whose gruff demeanor softens as he sees her resilience and kindness. Meanwhile, the Queen, furious upon learning of Snow White's survival, decides to take matters into her own hands. Utilizing dark magic, she transforms into an old, frail peddler woman. The transformation scene is unsettling as the Queen's vanity and arrogance are stripped away, revealing a grotesque and twisted version of herself. She brews the poison apple, which gleams with unnatural vibrancy, symbolizing both temptation and doom. While Snow White is settling into her new life, she encounters Jonathan, a bandit leader who has been rallying villagers to resist the Queen's rule. Intrigued by his rebellious spirit, Snow White convinces him to teach her how to fight. Realizing that fleeing from her destiny is not enough, they train together, and the chemistry between them is there. Though the focus remains on Snow White's growth rather than a romantic subplot. One fateful morning, the disguised Queen arrives at the cottage. The dwarfs are out mining, leaving Snow White alone. The old woman's seemingly kind and gentle demeanor catches Snow White off guard, and when offered the beautiful red apple, she takes a bite. Instantly, she collapses, her body limp and lifeless on the ground. The Queen's sinister smile fades into maniacal laughter as she hobbles away. Certain that her plan has succeeded, the dwarfs return to find Snow White in a death-like sleep. Jonathan arrives and is heartbroken, giving Snow White a kiss on the forehead as he whispers an apology for not being there to protect her. In that moment, the spell breaks, and the dwarfs erupt in joyous celebration. With newfound resolve, Snow White leads Jonathan, the dwarfs, and the villagers in an uprising against the Queen. The final battle is epic and fierce, as Snow White directly confronts the Queen, who has reverted to her true form. The Queen, desperate and delusional, tries to wield her dark magic, but Snow White's courage shatters the mirror's curse. The mirror itself fractures, reflecting the Queen's monstrous nature before she herself falls to her death. The kingdom rejoices as Snow White is crowned queen. She pledges to rule with compassion and justice, restoring peace and hope to the land. In the final scenes, we see the villagers celebrating, the dwarfs returning to their lives, and Jonathan pledging to serve Snow White as a loyal friend and protector. The film closes with Snow White looking out over the vibrant, blooming kingdom, a symbol of her triumph and resilience. Thanks for watching this in-depth recap of Snow White 2025. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more movie recaps and breakdowns. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Did this adaptation live up to your expectations? See you next time.